Yo, this shit OP.
I think this is going to go well if it does, and it may be something we can do again if we find it's effective.
Based on our original conversation, we'll see how that works out.
Yep. Sort of, to me, the beginning is a little, I hope it's not too redundant for you, but I think it's important for people to know from you what it is. NFAC 101, people need to know instead of the bullshit that they read and the opinions that they read.
As I said before, I'll say it again. I'm all for that, but I'm going to say it again because people tend to be human beings. If it goes off of the script, if anybody decides they want to come in and open up anything in the petty department, I am going to terminate the interview. I'm not going to sit here and have a discussion with a bunch of people who failed to take the time to do the research on who they're talking to or why they should even be allowed to have a discussion with me or anybody in my organization. I granted you this interview based on that particular discussion that you and I had about the failure of mainstream media to cover the NFAC. I mean, not withstanding those around the globe that are, but here in the United States. So I'm hoping that you and I can come to a mutual understanding that we achieve that goal. Anything less than that will be grounds for a termination of our working agreement. I'm pretty sure you would agree with that, sir.
100%. And my finger is on that mute and exit button.
Understood.
But I don't think it's, I hope, like many of my responses that I got on Facebook where people were really excited to have the opportunity. So hopefully they live up to that.
We shall see. We shall see. Give me 1 second, please.
At 5 minutes of, what I do is I will put you in the waiting room so that I can let the countdown clock run on Facebook.
That's
and
fine.
Then 9:01, you'll be the first person in. I will introduce this show, and then you'll be the first person in, and we'll go. You and I will go.
Very good.
And I'm going to tell people, I'll remind people our parameters, and also keep their questions brief so we can get as many in as possible. I don't have a hard stop at 10, but I usually like to do that. If that's good with you, if you want, you have any hard stop, any particular
I do
time?
have a hard stop. I still have to do facts over feelings tonight. I was going to do that after we were done. So if 10 o'clock is exactly what I projected as the hard stop, depending on how the conversation flows, if we make it that far, it will be rather interesting.
Okay, great.
If we do, I would be surprised, to be honest.
All right, I'm going to put up the fight. I got to move you into the waiting room. I like to call it the green room.
The green room is fine. I've been in the green room many times, even when it wasn't green. We'll just play along and call it the green room.
Exactly, and we'll pretend that there's some baby carrots there and some French onion dip, and then a little bit of...
They never get the dressing room right. The writer is always messed up. The food is cold, and there's no chicken. So I don't know about the green room.
I will. We'll debrief on that one after as well.
Not a problem.
All right.
Thank you,
I'll
sir.
talk to you in 5 minutes or so.
Mhm. Okay, they got me in the green room. They can't hear what's going on. I gotta let y'all know real quick. Y'all are tuned in. Won't be no facts over feelings right now. We're gonna get the facts over feelings later. Right now, I'm in the green room. They got me in the green room before they bring me into this town hall panel where a bunch of, I'm assuming it's gonna be white people. They're gonna ask me all kinds of questions about the NFAC, why we doing it, why they can't join, why, all of that. Now, I don't know how this is going to go. That's why I let y'all be the witnesses. That way, if they try to cut it up or say that I said, y'all heard it raw right here. Listen up. Look, you know we don't gossip, so get it the first time around. I'm in the green room. Okay, here we go. I just want to let y'all know. Y'all know I got to show y'all what's happening, okay? You know, they don't get me with these interviews. Here we go again. Big shout out to Meech X in the building. I see you, Meech. What's happening? Yeah, they got me on the spot over here, Meech. Hold on. Let me see if I can get in here. Okay, they ain't came back yet. I want y'all to know that tonight I'm going to talk a little bit about something that everybody been want me to talk about, and that's how much it will cost us, to how much land we would need to buy for 1 million people to move into one city based on what we talked about last night. They still not ready. So y'all hang around after I'm done with whatever they gonna throw at me tonight. I have no idea. I'm just going along with the flow. Y'all know if they get crazy, I'm gonna pull the plug. But hang around after that, because we still got to talk about how much it'll cost us to buy enough land to build 1 million people, black only city that everybody else can come visit. While I'm waiting for them to get me out the green room. How much time we got? 3 minutes? We got 3 more minutes. All right. I got 3 more minutes so I can lean back over here and talk to y'all again. Look, I'm still in the green room, but what I wanted to tell y'all is, listen, tonight also, ladies, I'm going to need y'all to listen up. I got something heavy to drop on the sisters tonight. Y'all ain't gonna believe what I found out in my examination of why all of the hateration. Where is all of this hateration coming from? It can't be because everybody's not a child of the Most High. It's got to be coming from somewhere. It's got to be coming from somewhere else. So I kind of figured out where it's coming from, and I'm gonna talk to y'all about that tonight too. As soon as I get out the green room, I'm stuck in the green room. The way they say this is supposed to play out, they're gonna spend about 10, 15 minutes just, straight interviewing. Then they're gonna actually let these town hall people ask me some questions. I've already put some rules in place that if they try to go off the path or talk about some crazy, y'all know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna cuss them out and shut them down and then on to the next one. You understand what I'm saying? They're gonna learn eventually how to talk to black people. That's what we're doing. This is another exercise in, do you know how to talk to black people one-on-one, okay? We're not going to sugarcoat it. We're not going to do none of that. I'm waiting for them to get me out the green room so that we can talk a little bit, and then we're going to probably give some white folks a chance to try to speak from a safe position, hidden behind a screen somewhere where they can ask me some questions and this, that, and the third. I'm just waiting to see. Remember, this is an exercise in can you talk to a bruh? Because last time it didn't work. This time we're trying something different. Then after I'm done with this, we'll get on with facts over feelings. Big shout out, Shannon Wise. I see you all the way up there in the Netherlands. What's going on? Big shout out to all my people down all across Africa, all across the whole continent. I got to salute all of y'all. Y'all know what happened today. Big shout out to everybody in the UK. Y'all already know. Remember, I'm mysterious and enigmatic. I don't know when I became that, but that's what they said. That's how they described us, as a cult. No, we're not. We're just a group of people. I'm still in the green room. A group of people that just want to be united. That's all it is to it. And all of this fear and all of this hateration and this, that, and the third, y'all can listen to that if you want to. My mother always told me, if they not hating on you, then you ain't doing something right. I must be doing a whole lot right, because I got I'm catching it from both ends. I got the white people beating me up and they lying on me. I got the black people beating me up and they lying on me. And then I got these people in the middle, the elite, trying to understand. The crazy part is all of y'all think that the other person sent me. The black people think that the white people sent me. The white people think that the black people sent me. The people on both sides think that the rich elite sent me. The trick of the matter is ain't none of y'all send me. I just showed up. If they don't get me out this goddamn green room, I'm not going to hang around long. How many more minutes? Okay, this time? Okay, let me calm down. Y'all follow along, okay? Somebody said don't wait too much longer. Y'all cold, but y'all cold piece. Cold audience, bro. Y'all cold. No, sometimes you want to tell your story because it's strategic. Sometimes you want to move a piece into a certain position because it's strategic. Even if you know the people that you're talking to you don't rock with, you still want your position put in front of them. Because if the only thing you have is your enemy's position, people will tend to believe that your enemy is telling the truth.
Founder and leader of the Not Fucking Around Coalition. And you're muted. Let me unmute you. I don't know if it's me that has to unmute you or you. But here we go. Thank you, sir. Welcome, Grandmaster Jay.
It's good to be here. Thank you for having me.
So glad you're here. I just told my audience that we are going to do part one, you and I. Part two, we'll bring some studio audience folks into the Zoom, and we've got a few parameters that we're going to speak around. If you see me looking left and right throughout the show, it's because I've got chat windows on either side. I will probably be able to take some chat questions as well from Facebook. So welcome, everybody. And I'll let you know a few people are already in the Facebook. Gigi Blanchard's here, Mark Schumann, Captain Cato, Mike Fonkin. Part of why the main reason, really, that I want you here is because I want to, I respect what you're doing, and I want the world and my audience to know straight from you, what is the NFAC? How did it start? And what are the goals of the Not Fucking Around Coalition?
The NFAC is America's Black Militia. It is not a social club. It is not a group of protesters. It is not a bunch of demonstrators. It is an organization of Black Americans that are able to legally arm themselves and desire to practice their constitutional rights of peacefully assembling to address grievances that are affecting the Black community. When I say the Black community, I hope folks don't get it twisted. It's not that you don't live amongst us and that we don't interact with you, but amongst our own kind, there needs to be some form of a collective consciousness and a collective voice that has to be spoken to. With the spate of police brutality shootings and the increased deteriorating environment of racism within the United States in the last few years, it is only inevitable that a group of us would organize ourselves into a militia to actually emphasize our desires and, if necessary, resort to force if we can't get those by means of some diplomatic way. So the not fucking around coalition, as you say, is the actual, it's not something that was created, it was something that evolved. It is, in fact, a coalition. It is a coalition that is cemented together by the NFAC, but consists of many different organizations, all sharing the same goal, the same mission. That is the defense of the black race. That is the policing of our own community, since the civilian police tend to have failed at that mission. And it is also the educating of our own people with regards to the responsible ownership of firearms and the knowing when and when not that they're able to defend themselves in a society that for some strange reason doesn't appear to put as much value on the taking of a black life as it does everyone else.
Did the name come around in a light bulb moment? Was it something that evolved out of conversations that you were having?
There is a movie called The Town with Ben Affleck. If you remember this movie, it's about a rather elite group of bank robbers that grew up in Boston that the police could never catch. And there's a scene where they pulled off some incredible heist, and the hero walks in and looks at the thoroughness of the job for the umpteenth time, and he gets frustrated. And he says to all the other officers, he says, let me explain something to you guys. These guys are not, these are not amateurs. Guys, these are not even professionals. Guys, this is the not fucking around crew. And if we don't hurry up and catch these guys, this not fucking around is going to go both ways. That name stuck with me. And then a few years later, that is the attitude that the community has achieved based on the weak responses and all of these empty lies and empty promises that are handed to us, not only by the legislature, but also by the judicial system, and now it appears even by the police. So we're not fucking around with any of that anymore. We don't want to fuck around with your excuses. We really don't want to fuck around with these discussions that we're having, but I'm just being generous enough to give your folks who just seem to have missed the boat and think that there's something else about us other than what we are. I'm only affording you that opportunity because we really don't owe you any type of explanation. We're nothing but the response. We're not the offense. We're the response of this increased activity of human rights violations committed in the United States and abroad at the hands of those who tend to think that we're still less than a human being.
Your leadership is strong. I can see it when I listen to you talk. I can see it when I watch your coalition listening to you. And I'm wondering, where'd you get your style, your training, so to speak, your influences for the type of leadership you have? Can you describe that a little bit?
My leadership style, if you want to call it that, is really a mixture of different things. The military structure itself comes from the United States Army. The United States Army trained me well. The United States Army instilled in me command structure and discipline. The United States Army instilled in me the fortitude to stay focused on the mission and put my feelings in the parking lot and deal with them later for the greater good of the mission. Those things I learned from the U.S. Armed Forces. The street savvy and knowing the dynamics that control my population, I learned from being a black person in this country for decades on all levels, whether we're talking street level, education level, corporate level, or just interacting on a social dynamics level. So I've been schooled by America in exactly how they perceive us and how they do a great job of acting like they don't perceive us at all. When it comes to my activism experience, and then again, I've been active in the activism game since 2014, and I've seen the highs and the lows, and I've managed to even switch positions because I too saw through the bullshit. So my leadership style is mostly that of a military official combined with a seasoned activist, combined with a corporate executive, combined with a homeboy from the street that you might know from around the way. So my style, it depends on the situation. If we're tactical, it's military. If it's social, then of course it's very street. If it's political, like in dealing with the Attorney General down in Louisville, it becomes political and corporate. It depends. So my style varies.
Your members, I'm curious, and a lot of people are curious, it's for only for black people. I'm curious, when a white person comes to you and says, hey, I want to be a part of this, I want to help you, where do you go with that?
I don't go anywhere. That conversation doesn't happen. No. Get out of here. Can't do it. Not going to happen. Here's why. Let me help you out. Let me help you out. Let me help your listeners out. It has nothing to do with white people. It has nothing to do with any other race. It has to do with us. Malcolm X said that we cannot learn to love another people until first we learn to love ourselves. And we're in a bad shape right now. Oh, we're in horrible shape. We hate each other by default. Our women hate our men. They say the men don't support them. Our men think our women are overbearing. The children are out of control. The family structure is in shambles. We got to learn to love us all over again. So this particular endeavor, this rise of the black militia, is incumbent upon the fact that we are going to do it. So if it works, we get the credit. If it fails, we have nobody else to blame. But in the process, as we're learning, this has been a learning experience, we're learning to love each other again. So this has nothing to do with white folks. For once, y'all can sit over there. We need to figure this out for ourselves.
Is it at all a response to, or is it a response at all, though, to the white militias that have organized? I know that you've had dialogue with them. And one of the things I also want to point out to people is, you showed up to Stone Mountain, and you don't, and you said this earlier, basically, with your training, you don't just show up willy-nilly. You have agreements in place or conversations with law enforcement so that everybody understands that this is not just some crew of people bum rushing the scene, that there's a method behind this madness. So was there a response to act in this way because of what these white militias do? Because I know you've had some dialogue with them.
Let me help you out real quick. First of all, I haven't had a dialogue with anybody. Haven't talked to them and don't want to talk to them. Don't care about them. Didn't know that they existed and still don't care that they existed. It is a constitutional right for anyone in this country who wants to pick up a weapon and arm themselves. That's your business. This is not a football game. This is not I make something against you. We're not in the Civil War anymore. We formed the NFAC for black people, not because of what someone else is doing. We're not running around challenging people. We're taking care of our own. A threat was made against black people on July the 4th. We answered the threat. Didn't give a damn who was there. It could have been two old ladies with apple pies talking about we're the threat. Then that's who the threat we would have met. But that's not what was communicated. And in the rising tension of that time, with all of these lynchings that everyone kept swearing out was suicides, tensions was pretty high with the Ahmaud Arbery case already still fresh in our mind, which wasn't committed by police, but by some good old white boys. It was pretty fresh in our mind. So when we went up to Stone Mountain, we didn't go up there just to meet white militia. We went up there to find out who in the hell in their goddamn mind thought that they could kill black people at 8 o'clock and think we wasn't going to start busting y'all in y'all ass at 8:05.
Gotcha. Morning mentals is something you do almost every morning. If not every morning, I watch it every morning, but I catch you quite a lot. Morning mentals, for those of you who don't know, airs on Instagram. That's where I see it anyway.
Right.
And then you do another piece, another talk called Facts Over Feelings. So can you tell everybody what Morning Mentals is about and what Facts Over Feelings is about?
I'm gonna thank you for being the first journalist that's asked me about the other side of this. Most people only see the NFAC and they think, they're a bunch of militant guys, gun nuts running around. What they don't realize is the NFAC also grew out of a group that I was already working with. I teach a class called Facts Over Feelings. I've been teaching it now for about 9 months now. I started right before December of last year. And it started off as a kind of an investigative, discussion about things that are going on that, people are getting emotional about, but we're staying away from the emotions. We're only going to deal, in the facts. We covered all type of topics, everything from 5G to the coronavirus when it first came out to stratospheric spraying. We talked about everything, but eventually what happened was the people started asking me more philosophical things to be covered. Like, let's go back and look at the Council of Laodicea, where they separated the 66 books, and created what we now know as the Biblios, the Holy Bible. Why did they leave the other books out? So we started studying that stuff, and then, of course, one thing led to another, and then what ends up happening is we began to get more of a belief-based teaching as opposed to just random, willy-nilly topics. So Facts Over Feelings became a place where you could come and actually learn or actually hear about things that you hadn't heard somewhere else, or you may have heard a little bit about, but we would dig really deep down into it and not let people's opinions get in the way. We just deal with the facts. You go think about it, inspiring critical thinking. Facts Over Feelings is now probably one of the biggest social media platform discussions that are out there right now. I mean, it's exploded from our regular class with just 3,000 people. Now it's over 100,000 people. The Morning Mental started off as just an every other day where I would just particularly expound upon the thoughts that came into my head when I first woke up, because they were pretty deep things and they appeared to be lessons and I didn't know where they were coming from. So I started sharing them with the people. Now people are dependent on the Morning Mental because it's there also where we get to think about a lot of the things that we're going to do, or we get to address some issues as a family. The Morning Mental and the Facts Over Feelings are private. They're not open to the public. If you are accepted in, saying the wrong thing will get you kicked out of a very exclusive club and there's no way to get back in. Recently, we've expanded to YouTube as we move off of the Instagram platform, but now we exist kind of on both of them. And as you can imagine, two totally different platforms. I will say this: Morning Mentals and Facts Over Feelings are observed by major media because they will pull directly what I say from the Morning Mental or from Facts Over Feelings and report that in their news stories. I've seen them do that. They did that with the Breonna Taylor situation.
How you met with the Attorney General, Daniel Cameron, and how did that go? I know you were. I mean, how satisfied were you with that conversation?
You're asking a question that's already been answered and addressed. A question you should have asked almost 4 weeks ago. The question you should be asking me is, after your conversations with the Attorney General's office, the legislature, and the law enforcement structure of Louisville, and then having to have returned to Louisville 4 or 5 weeks later to have a $162 million impact on the Kentucky Derby, only to see the Attorney General turn around and come out a couple days later now about to announce that the case has gone to the grand jury. Now that we're seeing all of these things, your question to me should be, how do you feel now that you achieved the transparency? How do you feel now that you see some traction? How do you feel now that you've gotten so much achieved, your group has gotten so much achieved? Do you feel like your point was achieved? The answer is yes. Because prior to that, there was zero visibility, there was zero transparency, there was the appearance that there was zero traction, and it was people getting more and more pissed off because it seemed like they didn't care. Our purpose of going to Louisville was to put pressure on the government, the judicial, and the legislature so that they could get some traction in the case of Breonna Taylor and that we had some visibility into it. We got that, we saw that. We still don't have anyone locked up yet, but it has moved to the grand jury now, which means sooner or later, we're either going to say yay or nay, and we can go ahead and move past this particular episode, which is taking such a long time.
I mean, when I reached out to you a couple months ago, and then in between reaching out to you and now, there's been more murders. There's been more murders of black men. And it's just, it's mind-boggling to me as I was thinking, oh, we're going to talk about this, and then another one steps up, and then another one. At what point do we get this? I'm lost, man. I'm sorry, but I'm trying to figure out at what point do you have the optimism that the black militias will have an effect, a positive effect, to make the change of what's going on with racial relations and the way police relate to black people?
Listen, there's only two things that are going to fix this. The first thing is that there would have to be an executive order that would cease and desist the utilization of firearms for a period of time by the police nationwide while they study this problem. Simultaneously, at the same time, the United States government would have to concede to some form of intercommunity policing by select communities to police themselves under the laws that exist. Getting that done is something that they're struggling with right now. Racism and policing, though they affect each other, are not intertwined. The institution of racism, which is what this country was built on, the systemic racisms, those are things that the police can't fix. They're just symptoms of the disease. in order to actually fix this would take, like we're trying to do now, would take a heart transplant of America. But as far as the cultural policing, that could be fixed very easily by simply shutting it down. Because it is a culture. You said more blacks are killed. It's not more. It never stopped. It is a steady succession. See, I tried to explain this to someone once before when they said that, oh, now that the NFAC is here, black people are going to stop getting shot. No, the NFAC is a response to the continued shooting of black people, the continued brutalization of black people. That's what that is. It is not the end result. There is no end result. It's going to take all of us to be the end result. It's going to take those people who are in charge of the policies of policing to wake up out of this little fantasy, this cowboy and Indian fantasy they live in from the 50s and realize you're living in a different world. The NFAC and every other iteration of everything that will come after us is simply a response that if you won't fix it, you're pushing us into a position where you're going to force us to fix it for you. And you don't want that, so stop acting like you do. And we really don't want that because we're not acting like we do either. Let me explain something to your viewers and explain something to you real quick. If we were as dangerous, if black people was as violent, if we were as bloodthirsty as you all believe that we was, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. You can read between the lines any way you want on that. But because we're not, because we are compassionate, because we are trying to find an amicable way that we can get out of this situation, since it looks like that's not going to happen, and it looks like the frequency of the acts of violence against us are intensifying, or maybe more people just got cameras, we don't know. But there's a whole group of us that are not just going to keep standing around talking about OMG. There's a whole group of us that's not just going to keep standing around talking about I'm waiting on the grand jury. There's a whole group of us who studied the history of the United States. And you all did a great job at showing us how you can say to hell with the system and snatch people out of jails and lynch them and burn them and set them on fire and kick down doors and shoot up whole cities because of something you heard somebody do. But when you think that it could happen to you, now all of a sudden you got a bunch of questions. No, we're not the stop, save all. We're just another option on the table. We all get together and fix it because remember what Malcolm said. It's peace for all of us. Or it's peace for nobody.
So we're going to bring in some of the folks that are sitting in the waiting room right now. And normally I do a lot of shouting out to the chatters, but I'm not going to bother with that right now. I appreciate you all being with us. I have one more question. You don't have to spend an ounce of energy answering it if you don't want, obviously. But I'm a guy who, as a white man, when I put my lenses on, sometimes I see myself as a white man. Sometimes I see myself most often as a human being, but as a white guy, and seeing what you're doing and appreciating what you're doing, and where you're coming from, because it is a very, very truthful place. Is there anything you can tell? And I know you're not concerned with white people. Your concern is with the love of black people. But is there anything you can tell a guy like me, there may be others, that is trying to make change? How, if there's a thought or any counsel or advice from your point of view?
Absolutely. I'm so glad you asked that question. You actually made me smile. It's very simple. You see, we don't need any more help holding up signs. We don't really need any more help chanting these empty chants. We don't need any more standing, holding hands of solidarity, and we don't need empty prayers anymore. If you want to help us, turn around and talk to the people that look just like you, and you know what I'm talking about, and you know who they are. You know who your racist family members are. You know who your racist uncle is. You know that racy little neighborhood over there where they say things behind our back. Don't be afraid to speak up to your own people. Don't always, I went down there and protested with the black people. That doesn't change nothing with them. You go up there and you talk to your people. You work with your people, and you take some of that money that y'all have made off of us for the last 400 years since you got such a head start with us, and you put some of that money back into some businesses and help us rebuild some of the business structure that we had in our neighborhoods. You want to really help us. Take some of that political power that you've been sitting on because your family got blood that go all the way back to the beginning of this country, and turn around and try to use some of that for an agenda that we agree on. If we agree on an agenda and say these are the top 5 things that are ailing black people, then won't you jump on board and run for office and say, I'm only going to run if I can walk with the black agenda. We're not going to give you our vote no more just because you say the right thing. We're not going to give you our vote no more just because of your sex. You either going to agree to the contract or you're going to have to get the hell back. That's how you help us, white people.
I'll let that sit for a second. We got to move into part 2. We're going to pull in some folks from the Zoom room. For those of you who are maybe just joining us or didn't get the memo, we are talking around 3 issues here now as we go into part 2, which is the state of race relations under the current administration in the United States. The second is the implications on our society and the impact on a global culture regarding citizens legally arming themselves, and the rise of the need for black militias. So as I bring the room in, for those of you who are coming in to ask questions, if you step outside those lines, I'm going to either kick you out of the room or mute you immediately, because I do not want my guest to leave us because you are selfish enough to not stick around and understand these parameters that we've set forth. So with no further ado, here we go. We're going to admit everybody into the room here. And we've got a pretty interesting group of people. Everybody is muted on the way in, Grandmaster Jay. And some people I know, I think almost all these people I know. They've been invited because I appreciate their opinions and their thoughts and their feelings. I'm going to start immediately with, first of all, if everybody could wave, so let me know you can hear. We're okay? Great, thank you. I'm going to take a chance, ask everybody to unmute themselves and just give us a very quick hello. Just say hello.
Hello.
Good evening. Thank you. Now, if everybody would mute yourself. Gerald, I'm going to go to you first, Gerald Gangaran, because one reason both you and Grandmaster Jay share a little history. You both served in the Army, and I thought it'd be appropriate to respect that and have you, Gerald, kick us off with a question. So go ahead.
Well, thanks for being so honest right now with everything. It's very interesting, your take on who do you want to include in, not just, it's not really including, but targeting. And I've had this conversation with different friends of mine, other black friends, where we say how it's not just about, we feel like lately some white people are just coming in and trying to say, what is it that you want to get done? Like why don't you have faith in stuff anymore and things, and just kind of hopping on the bandwagon. Why is it that you think that having white guys next to you with guns isn't maybe another answer as well, like adding them to that militia?
I think I've already answered that question once again. This is an exercise in internal racial esteem building, team building, and racial love. There is no room for anyone white in that exercise.
Got it. Gerald, any follow-up or not?
Are you worried about how like you said, so white people have so much power right now with things, and trying to get those people that have power to lend some of that by just being part of the crowd in certain events. And I wonder, is that something that you're worried about, excluding that in some way, where it makes progress a little slower, it makes you look more like a, dare I say, radical movement, because of the perception of how everything is, where you don't have that as much buy-in?
First of all, there's no worrying anywhere. We're not worried about anything. Second of all, that doesn't come into the realm of our thoughts, because as I said before, the answer is no, so we don't have to entertain that. Again, if you think that black unity is radical, then you too are part of the problem. What I'm saying and what I'm going to keep saying is the purpose of the NFAC and the black militia It's an exercise in building within the black community to reemphasize our unity, our ability to defend ourselves, and if you know anything about our ultimate goal, to act as a defense force for any type of an ethno-nation that will be formed out of the process of the status of international liberation that's been filed with the world courts. We're not just a militia that's walking around with guns. Our mission is a lot bigger than that. So no, those things don't come into the purview of our thought sphere at all.
Some of the questions that are going to come up, Grandmaster Jay, we may have covered it earlier, they may not have heard it if they were in the waiting room. I'm not sure, so just in case.
Okay.
Gerald, thank you very much. And if you don't mind, want to tell us what branch you're in, and can you tell us a little bit?
Yeah, I was similar to the Grandmaster. I was in the Army. I served for about 11 years active duty. I was medically retired after some combat injuries.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gerald. I would love to ask James Turcotte if he would jump in now and unmute yourself. I know James Turcotte. I grew up with James Turcotte. James is just retired lawyer. And welcome, James.
Good evening. Grandmaster Jay, I have a question. It's a two-part question for you. Whether it's a movement or an organization or idea, timing is always very important. Where do you see yourself, the NFAC, and Black Militia as being accepted within the black community?
Well, first of all, that's an interesting question. I'm glad you asked that. As far as being accepted within the black community, it has already been stated across the entire spectrum, from those from the age of 4 all the way up to 94 to 104, that the appearance of the black militia is something that has been welcome, anticipated, and openly embraced for the last 60 years. They've been waiting. So as far as the inspiration, the impact, and how it's been accepted, it has been phenomenal. As a matter of fact, that is why the membership has exploded and continues to explode. As far as where do we see ourselves within the overall footprint, well, that's just a matter of how well we can roll out the master plan and how well we can begin to implement some of the joint programs along with some of the other existing entities in the areas of self-policing, gun education, and of course our own self-defense of ourselves against such things as police brutality and blatant racism that's exacted against black people.
The second part of my question is, what criticisms have you received within the black community, and what has been your response to those criticisms?
There are no criticisms. There's nothing to respond to.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, James. Thank you. Alicia Joy Powell, another longtime friend of mine and a brilliant performer and spirit. Hi, Alicia. Welcome.
Hey, how you guys doing tonight?
Great. Go with it. Your question.
First I want to say hello to you, Grandmaster Jay. I am involved in a movie that is long overdue, Judas and the Black Messiah, about Fred Hampton, the story of Fred Hampton, and the person who portrayed him. So with that, I wanted to ask you, what do you think about us educating our youth in regards to basically being self-sufficient, like fishing and how to properly use guns and self-defense classes and things like that?
Well, your question actually has a bigger scope than that. It's funny that you mentioned that because I just taught a class that's available on YouTube called 1 in a Million, which is what it would take for us to build a city of 1 million black people, including all of the logistics that will go along with it, everything from housing to farming to financial to transportation to the whole 9 yards, how much the land would cost, how much square footage we would need, the entire 9 yards. This is part of the exercise that NFAC has been enacting since it came into inception. It's not just the militia. We're working on some other things. If you've read The Destruction of Black Civilization by Chancellor Williams, he talks about the master plan. The master plan is exactly what we're following, and we're following it to the letter, and it's happening just as it said in the book. So when you start talking about some of the logistics that will be needed for us to have our own space, it does translate out into areas such as real estate, farming, defense, medicine, the whole 9 yards. We've already thought those things out. We've already started the committees that will start organizing within our own community to build out those pillars. We've already started those particular efforts. Now, it's funny you mentioned that, because when you talk about folks like Fred and the time that they lived in, they addressed the issues that were relevant at that time. The 10-point program that the Black Panthers put together that everybody has copied off of, since then, and taking credit for all of the different programs. We won't talk about that. We'll talk about that next week. But for all the other things that we're looking at as far as what we're doing, we're the safeguard around the house while you're building it. That's the first purpose of the militia. Internally, as you said, those of our people who understand that it's more than just us having our own space. It's us becoming our own manufacturers. It's us becoming our own, consumers. It's us living in our own land, in our own houses, built with our own timber, having our own trade with other entities in other countries. That's the ultimate goal, whether it's done internally here through some type of diplomatic agreement, or we go somewhere else to do it.
Circulating our own dollars within a community.
Claude Anderson talks about group economics. Group economics is something that is actually enforced inside the NFAC, which is one of the reasons we don't accept donations, or we're not a 501c. No, we all pool our resources to make happen what you see happen. So yes, group economics is a principle that has to be practiced by us as a people in order to make sure that our dollar bounces more than just 0.1 time before it goes to someone else, or before we allow other entities to come into the areas where we live and make money off of us, but not put any of that money back into the developing of our communities.
I agree. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alicia. I'm going to queue up two people in the back just to get people prepared. So I'd like to cue Mark Schumann and Katha Cato and then Power. But first, let's just go straight to you, Mark Schumann from Cleveland, right?
Yes. Hi. Thank you very much for for taking the time out here and just connecting with us. But I am curious as to why, because if NFAC is all about black people, white people can't be part of it. What do you need from white people? What is the impact of this conversation right now?
That's
white audience.
Well, thank you. That's a great question, because we never asked white people for anything. There aren't any demands on the table. We haven't issued a manifesto, not one time. Anytime I've spoken publicly, have I asked the white society to do anything. As I said at the beginning of this conversation, this is an exercise by, for, and about black people, because we have some internal housekeeping to do. And that is what we're doing here. Everyone standing on the outside who thinks that they're a customer to the process or thinks that they have some input into it is finding out the hard way. Not this time, folks. I'm sorry. The balcony is closed.
Right. So when Robert got in touch with you and said, "Hey, do you want to be on my show?" What made you go, "Yeah, this is a good effort for me. This is going to be productive"?
Well, you have to understand something. The value of dialogue with individuals across the spectrum is necessary in order for us to have a realistic outlook on the environment as it exists today. You cannot bury your head in the sand and say you're going to attack a problem. You still have to look around you and practice some form of situational awareness, and you all would never have the insight or the understanding of where we're coming from if I didn't come and have these dialogues. Most people will jump to conclusions, and you and I, we've seen this happen before. People will make assumptions, and then when the truth comes out, it says, "Oh, well, why didn't you guys come talk to us?" So I come talk to you.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Mark. We're gonna have a hard stop at 10 o'clock, so I'm gonna ask people to now limit to one question. Katha, you're up, and I appreciate your questions. You're coming out of Queens, New York. Oh, you're muted, Katha. Your computer's muted. Right now. No, can't hear you. I had you unmuted, but so I'm going to fix it. I'll come back to you. Just wave to me when you think you got it. Power Malu, are you ready?
Yeah.
Power Malu is an activist out of New York. has been doing a lot of work right out there in the streets. Welcome, Power. Go ahead.
Peace, Galinsky, you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Peace, Brother Grandmaster J. My name is Powell Malu. I'm part of the New York City organizers. It's a bunch of young people, youngest is 16 years old. We've been protesting in New York City since May 29th. Recently, in July 7th, we were attacked by a vehicle driven by the MTA, by 2 MTA employees near Times Square, where they attempted to run over our protesters, crushing bikes. And it happened again last week in Times Square again. This time it was Trump antagonizers. They were clearly wearing Trump paraphernalia, and they came purposely to our march protest where we were bringing attention to, again, recent murders that have been happening, this one particularly from Rochester, New York. And the police, once again, Times Square is packed with police. And in both instances, they actually were seen during the MTA attack. They took their time. We had to get the bikers to come and let them know what happened. Mm-hmm. They released these guys without anything happening. We've been protesting in front of the MTA. Their excuse to us was that the driver and his son were not on duty. They were wearing MTA uniforms, however. That case, we're still pushing to get some type of restorative justice there. We don't advocate putting anyone in prison. We actually advocate for restorative justice because we are against the police and the punitive system that exists right now. The case last week with these Trump supporters, same situation. There were hundreds of police officers there at Times Square. They were seen actually escorting, putting the Trump supporters in their vehicles and allowed them to once again plow through our line of bikes that are used to protect the protesters.
Malu, respectfully, I got to ask you to ask the question.
So my question to you, Grandmaster J, is in this situation, what would you recommend our protesters to do? We continue to be on the streets. We're not going to be intimidated. But in New York City, this is a situation that's been going on, and clearly the NYPD endorsed Trump, and this type of behavior is going to escalate. So just asking from your perspective.
Yeah, two things, and I'm glad. Thanks for your question, my brother. And I continue. Y'all stay out there. Y'all stay on the front lines. Y'all keep on doing what you're doing. You keep on putting the pressure on. You keep on being a thorn in their side. Don't let them get comfortable. But what I would say to you is places like New York, the state of California, places where they have systematically robbed people of the ability to arm themselves. They have the strictest gun laws, so you can't get a weapon, but yet the police have weapons automatically. So, of course, you're not going to be able to have an armed resistance like you would have if the NFAC, let's say, per se, was to come to your city. States like that, like California, which, of course, you cannot open carry ever since the Panthers went to the State House. You know, they twisted the laws to take the teeth out of the people. So what I would say to those individuals who find themselves in those environments that still are practicing their constitutional right to peacefully assemble and to bring grievances, that you need to prepare yourself at some point. I don't know if you can read between the lines that you can't have a gun, but a gun is not the only weapon. You understand what I'm saying to you? You can organize yourselves in such a way that you can have a resistance. I don't care if it's the baseball bat committee. If you're organized and you put a show of force, you'll find out that the police everywhere. See, the police aren't stupid. If you notice anything about the NFAC, we never have problems with the police because we're an organized resistance. We're not an unruly mob. You can still have your unruly mob over here, but you got to have your organized resistance over here. And if the only thing that's stopping you from being able to defend yourself is whether or not you can have a gun, well, look at what you're saying. They're hitting y'all with cars, rubber bullets, and all types of inanimate objects. Well, you got inanimate objects too, and you have a right to defend yourself. It's not something that someone gives to you. Y'all have the right, especially young folks. Young folks are the ones that are out there with the the energy talking about I'm not having it no more. But what happens is the system is set up that if you make a mistake, they rob you of your ability to arm yourself later. They call you a felon right now. You can't get a gun later when you need one. But if you're going to go out there, I'm letting y'all know, and I'm not telling you what to do, but if it was me and my crew and we couldn't hold guns, well, there's all types of other things that we can use to defend ourselves, not offend. See, there's a difference between protesting and rioting. Rioting is an unruly destruction of property with no purpose, no goal. Let's just do it. That's a riot. A protest has a message. A protest has something that you're trying to get. If y'all been out there all those days, what are you out there for? You have to have a goal. Just like when we went into Louisville, it is to get a verdict. It was to get transparency into Breonna Taylor. It wasn't to make everybody feel good and wrap it all up. No, people still gonna keep protesting because they in their emotions. They should. You should too. But when the police or the people start aggressing you like that, you got to use your head and say, okay, how can I aggress them back? If you can't aggress them physically, aggress them in their wallet. If you can't aggress them in their wallet, aggress them in their level of comfortability of what they doing. If you can't aggress them there, then damn it, just be a nuisance any way you can by blowing up phones and doing all kind of crazy stuff. But what you don't want to do is put yourself in a position where you keep bringing a knife to a gunfight, or you bring up nothing to a gunfight. You don't keep going to the gunfight. You change the type of fight it is. I hope I've answered your question, my brother.
Sure did. Thank you, brother. Thank you, Malu.
Peace and love.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Captain, give it a try again. Okay. Is it appropriate that I can? Is it appropriate that I cannot change to unmute? I don't know. I can't read that fully. But I need to listen. Yes, you do. You're doing a great job. Carolyn, Zezima, and Goldie Gorilla, I would love to bring you into this now. Carolyn is also a former lawyer and now a fellow gardener of my in our community here in New York. Hi, Carolyn.
I kind of, in a way, feel like Katha does that. Maybe I should just listen for a bit. However, this has been a burning question of mine in general. I do have an ambivalent feeling about the Second Amendment. I will just say that, and I'm not a huge fan of anyone bringing guns in public, but that's a whole other discussion. I certainly, however, feel what is good for the goose is definitely good for the gander. And I've always had what I thought was almost a fantasy, I guess you'd say, of I would love to see black folks come in with the same armament that you're seeing white folks bring to over COVID ridiculousness, etc. I have been almost admonished. I haven't done it publicly, but that is almost, in a sense, putting black folks in physical danger, in the sense of asking them to go into public in this idea with guns to the same degree that white folks are, is actually putting them more at risk because of the reality. So my question to you is really just practically speaking, how have you been received in places that you have brought guns, both by the police and by we'll say opposing white militia?
I cannot believe that you asked me that question. I mean, I don't know you. I just met you, and there's no offense, but when I hear people, I'm not even gonna say white people, anybody say what you said out your mouth about black people being in danger because they come out with guns, as if black people coming out with guns when it's legal under the Second Amendment is one of the most racist things that you can say to someone like me, because of the simple fact that we're not doing anything that anyone else has already been empowered to do. No, let me finish. It's one thing when a black man walks down the street with a weapon. You're right. It could be misperceived incorrectly because we've been socialized to think of black people as being criminal when it comes to guns. They talk about in Harrell's book, Brainwashed. That's an inferiority myth that has to be addressed. But when you organize yourselves into 1,500 guns, when you organize yourselves into 3,500 guns, Organized, not a rampaging mob. Whether you're black, white, or purple, it makes no difference. Power respects power. We've had no problems anywhere we've gone because most people realize that we're the scariest thing they've ever seen. And that goes for law enforcement everywhere we've gone. They're very cooperative with us. They're very willing to work with us. They're very happy to accommodate us. They're very willing to ignore permits for us. Why? Because when you have that amount of firepower in that particular group demographic's hands that you thought for so long was going to be negative, and they show that they're peaceful, law-abiding, and have a message, you are stuck. You don't know what to do. So you go down this path that, oh, it must be dangerous for the black people. It ain't no more dangerous for the black people than it is for white people to come out talking about they are militia when they can't even get organized, shooting each other and falling all over themselves like that clown show I saw out in Stone Mountain. So please don't ask me questions from the slant of my people being in danger of having guns.
Thank you, because that's exactly, I have literally been, in essence, dressed down by encouraging this idea that what is good for the goose should be good for the gander, and that it's really not my place to even encourage such a thing. But I have always said that it's about time, if we're going to have guns, it's time for everyone to have the same access to guns. I personally would prefer no one to have guns, but in this sense, I'm of that feeling. So it was a kind of clumsy way of asking that, but I really wanted to hear how you've been received, and I think you answered it.
Well, thank you very much. I'm so glad I could answer that question for you.
Thanks, Carolyn. Goldie Gorilla. Goldie is also just Grandmaster Jay, another local New York radical, part of the Occupy movements, organized a lot of that around Occupy. So Goldie, go ahead.
Well, I was going to.
We lost your volume.
Yeah, his sound went straight out as soon as he started talking. Can you start over again, please?
Start again.
Yeah, can you hear me?
We can hear you now, yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. It's been a pleasure listening to you speak tonight. I have a lot more listening to do, and I was going to ask you yet another white ally question because I'm a white guy and I want to help, and I know a lot of people want to help. I'm going to push that aside because I already know how you feel about that. But I'm sure that a lot of people watching are, thinking, oh my God, a black militia, and thinking you could be the first black militia they've ever heard of, possibly the first one in history. We all know that's not true. I'm wondering if there are black militias in history, in maybe a time period that you admire, or if you even maybe modeled yourself after some of the militias of the past, or if you just speak briefly on the history of black militias in the U.S.
Well, I mean, the only significant black militia that's worth this particular conversation would be the Deacons of Defense that existed back in the 60s, which was as close to a black militia as we were going to get. Most folks, as we found out in this endeavor, are really not too versed on what a militia is. They think they do until we start to operate as such, and then we talk about being deputized by the governor and being able to be called up in the event of a national emergency or something of that nature, and people look at you because they don't really understand that that's where the National Guard came from. It grew out of militias that used to exist. Then you have the private militias, which are sometimes illegal, and then you have militias that can be tapped by the governor, which are the public militias. Then you have the well-regulated militias. So there's different types of militias. It's not really based on color. What has happened is the NFAC has become the fourth largest militia in the United States and the only existing black international militia as of right now. Not saying some others aren't coming because everybody's fired up, but I think that we're in an area that has not been traversed before. So we're learning as we go and going back to study the history of what militias did back in the day. I don't think we'll see that applicable today, my friend. What we found out back then from doing our study on the history of militias is that militias were used by political parties to emphasize their point. In other words, vote for me because I want Kool-Aid on Thursdays. Everybody who doesn't agree, I send in a militia to shoot up the joint, burn the place down just to get you to vote and see things my way. The Republicans had militias. The Democrats had militias. But now that the black folks have a militia, it's still the same. It's to emphasize a certain agenda. And I want to take a step back. When you talk about our allies, when you talk about people who just want to help, and And it sounds like I slammed the door on you. I said, no, this is an exercise in our own team building and racial esteem building. Once we've reached a level of comfortability where we now know that we can trust each other and work together as a whole, then it will be time to talk to people like you and talk to those who want to help and talk to those who want to be allies. But we can't be an ally with you if we're still backstabbing each other over here in the house, if you can understand what I mean. Militias themselves, the need for militia. The need, I've never seen so much as what I've seen now in the press. Before it was just militias showed up. All the militias showed up in Michigan. All the militia, but now they've got to put color on it because the true nature of a militia means that you should be able to be called up by the powers to be to help out. Well, let's go ahead and just be real transparent right now. If there's some type of racial problem going on in one of these cities because some police officer shot somebody that they shouldn't have, and the National Guard has to be called in to keep the peace, and the only militia you got to call up is the black militia, you may have a conflict of interest. You may not get any cooperation over an organization that you now don't have any control over. So now it's something for you to think about. Nobody cared about the other 36 militias that are listed on the directory of militias that they recognize. But now all of a sudden, since there's this huge black militia which is united in one goal, which sees, I'm sorry, don't take this the wrong way, but sees your people as the enemy because it's your people that made us have to pop up and do this. We're not saying you did it, but you got people in your crew, people in your family, people in your demographic that caused us to pop up. Now, all of a sudden, you want to have these discussions. I asked you this question. Where was these discussions a year ago? Because NFAC wasn't on your radar. Where was these discussions 3 years ago when all of the mass shootings was going on? Where was the discussion 5 years ago when we started to see the militarization of the police department? Where was these discussions when Rodney King was getting... Where was these discussions when the FBI put out the report that white supremacists would infiltrate law enforcement and the military? None of these discussions were talked about because the end result is if you train these people, they can form a militia, a well-trained one. And what you just saw is that black people fall into that very same category, and thus they have.
Thank you, Goldie. Thank you, Grandmaster Jay. Thank you. Jacqueline, Jasmine, do either of you have a question queued up? If so, go ahead, unmute yourself. Yes, I just want to say Jasmine's another incredible spirit working at Harriet Beecher Stowe and doing a lot of good work out of Connecticut.
Hello, Jack.
I just had a question. I have been criticized, in the past. I've been called, Uncle Tom for criticizing, certain problems that are within our own community. Have you ever dealt with sort of that conflict before for really zoning in and focusing on, problems within our own community that we have to address?
You say our own community. I'm a little confused. Which community are you speaking of? Are you speaking within the black community? Are you speaking within a certain demographic? I'm a little confused.
Within the black community.
Okay.
I think there's this focus on, turning against your own kind when you point out those issues, or at least I've dealt with that before.
I would believe that, and I'll answer that, is that when people attack you for telling them the truth, it means that you hit the nerve right on. You hit the nail right on the head. You don't listen. If they get upset with you, you told them the right thing. For them, don't attack the messenger. And I've had people not attack me. I don't think anybody's that suicidal. What I have had is people that look like me that will go in the opposite direction just because it holds a mirror to their face. Nobody likes to be told. We want to be told that the white man is attacking us. We want to be told that it's the police fault that we are the condition we in. But when we say, well, no, hold on a minute. What about us attacking us? What about us killing us? What about us disrespecting us? All of a sudden, everybody like, nah, see, you don't went too far. And those sometimes, in order for us to get a resolution, you got to go too far. And as long as you rubbing them the wrong way, you doing the right thing. Matter of fact, rub them the wrong way a little more. Come back and say, well, if that bothers you, this really gonna trip you out. And you keep laying it on them. Eventually, they gonna come around, because here's what's gonna happen. They gonna get sick of seeing you. They gonna get sick of you telling them that. And in their own quiet time, they're going to realize you was right. That's why I'll give you this last piece of advice. I don't throw people away. That's why I don't argue with people. Because some of the same people that I argue with today, I've seen them have a change of heart, and I've reclaimed them to the family. Okay? With an eye on them in case they act up again so I can get rid of them. But the point is, I've reclaimed them to the family. Because they've shown me that there's some growth, and we should all be growing. You shouldn't be the same person you was 5 years ago. So you can't just say that and just hold it to that one principle. Give people some room to change. You told them the truth. You told them the truth. They didn't like it. So, and the truth don't change because you don't like it. Okay?
Thank you so much.
Jacqueline Blumfield, out of Louisiana, where the storms have just hit. Hi, Jacqueline. What's your question?
Hello, Grandmaster. Nice to be with you this evening. I have a question in reference to the negative comments that are being made in reference to the NFAC showing up in different cities or towns looking and dressed like you are. How do you as far as people speaking on a negative perspective, if anyone look like you or dress like you show up in my town, and what they plan to do? So how do you plan to, or how do you solve, well, not say solve because it's not even a problem, but how do you handle the situation?
There is no situation. You can stop right there. There's no situation to handle.
Okay.
Y'all give energy to the wrong things. I don't care about nobody's opinion who has never stood on the front line and faced a bullet like I have. I don't care about sideline people who sit back and comment from their keyboards and the comfort of their phones. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. It's a free country. The way that we dress is functional. If somebody starts shooting, trust me, we need everything we got. We don't know who gonna start or when. Now, as far as people being scared because of something that they created, I ain't got nothing to do with that either. I don't respond to criticism. I'd rather you come to me and give me something positive to say. Talk about how organized we look. Talk about how no one has ever been arrested. We've never destroyed a piece of property, haven't never fired a shot. Talk about how we've gotten results. Don't come to me and talk about people criticism, because guess what? I don't recognize criticism because we're all about positivity. Nobody seems to recognize that, but as a sister yourself, I know you can understand that. And I hope I've given you something. You take them back and say, you know what? He ain't worried because they doing a good thing. That's all.
Thank you, Jacqueline. I know Gigi and Nina haven't spoke yet. I'm wondering if you want to, or Jim, if you do, you can just Gigi's leaning in. Go ahead.
Hey guys. Hey Grandmaster, thank you.
Gigi, by the way, I've given everybody a little thumbnail. Gigi works with incarcerated, post-incarcerated, and foster children, full-time, non-stop. She's got her own organization, goes into Rikers Island and other prisons, and is working hard here in New York.
Yes, and I can say, as somebody, I actually got into this because I was incarcerated as a teenager in Chicago, and I can attest to the fact that there is a full-on assault on black and brown, and we'll say what they say in the system, bodies. As a white person, I had all the chances in the world, got out early, had the first choice of the group homes, and that was 20 years ago, and it's still happening today for our kids. So this is real. And so my question, I'll get right into it because I know time is of the essence, has to do with one of the first things that you were saying is educating, you know, your brothers and sisters. And you went into talking about arms and all that. And I'll have to say, I live in Bed-Stuy here in New York. And when the Black Lives Matter protest actually went down the street, right down my house, I ran outside to sort of catch up with them. So they were so far ahead that I was sort of, you know, a couple blocks behind, and all of the people, I live right there's projects after projects here in Bed-Stuy, down Gates Avenue, and people were coming out and actually arguing with each other, and some of the people of color who were in the protest about which they would shut up and what are you doing, like please keep this noise away, I'm so tired of you here. And there was arguments like we're here for you, and the guys coming out was like, no, you're not here for me, like I'm glad I'm in the back, like get out, keep this noise away from here, we got things to do, y'all in the way, I gotta move my car. And so there was full-on fights, and at first I was like, damn, like I didn't expect that, right? But then I thought about it later, and I was like, you know, this is part of, you know, the education, or maybe the disbelief that change can happen, right? Because people here in the hood especially are so affected by too much policing, right? There are spotlights on the projects all day long in their windows, and maybe they don't believe that that light's going to move because this is an everyday thing. And so when you're talking about educating each other, I'm just wondering, is that part of it too? Is it talk about, yeah, change can come if, for example, your organization steps in? Just want to know what you have to say about that.
Well, I'm going to answer this like this. First of all, you are a gentrifier, okay? You have colonized the black community. I used to live in Crown Heights in Brooklyn, so I'm very familiar with Bedford-Stuy. But when the gentrification of black neighborhoods, especially historic black neighborhoods, began, and folks like yourself moved in who now feel that you have some say-so, you use the term hood. You talked as if your generations came from there, when the truth of the matter is you're a guest, a very well-accepted guest who's paying for space in a place that has deep origins in the black community. I can understand that when people see such things such as Black Lives Matter with their fake demonstrations come through, and it's mostly white people now, that you think you're doing us a favor, as I said earlier in this interview, by standing outside and chanting an empty chant, which does nothing to change the laws, does nothing. And you and I both have something in common. I too worked as a prison chaplain. I too went into the prisons, the state jails. I too used to go into the halfway houses and the chemical dependency areas. And I too used to walk people to the death chamber. So I do know a little bit about that side, so I can empathize with you about, you know, us trying to make sure that folks have the right frame of mind so recidivism rates drop when they come back to the street. But that's another life for another time. Right now, what you're seeing is your desire to help is being misapplied. You don't help us by protesting. You don't help us.
I think you're misunderstanding. I think that you're misunderstanding my point respectfully.
Okay.
And I understand that most white people that you may hear say hood or that are in Bed-Stuy, you assume that they're gentrifiers and that they're using a term. I, like I said, grew up in the system, and I actually did grow up in what we called the hood in East St. Louis, and I was imprisoned in Chicago. I actually ran away to get locked up on purpose because it was better than where I was at. My mom was an addict. It was bad.
Can I ask you a question? I'm going to do something I never do.
I wasn't running out to protest.
I'm going to do something I never do.
Sorry?
I'm going to do something I never do. I'm going to ask you a question. As a white woman, do you honestly believe that your experience in America, coming up in the hood, as you called it, coming up in, you know, whatever, do you believe that it is equivalent to the experience of a black person coming up through that same channel in America?
No, and that is exactly why I write and why I go in, because many of my students, all of them, almost 99% of them, almost 100% are black, and say that they haven't even had an experience with racism. These are young kids who have never left Harlem until they got locked up. Think that they have not experienced racism until I mention it. And I say, well, you know, I bring another teacher in who is a person of color, and somebody graduated college, somebody did from age 15 to 19 in prison. Who is it? They're always going to point to him because they don't believe that that could be me because I don't fit scripts.
Right.
They don't even realize that they are a part of racism just by being in a room full of other black kids locked up.
I believe to answer your question, to answer your question, I believe, and it is our belief that as the NFAC rolls out some of its community policing, community involvement programs that a lot of those that mirror those of the Black Panthers of the 60s, that you yourself will begin to see the impact on some of those same kids, and yourself will be able to be involved in that process for those folks that are parts of those neighborhoods that need to be involved in that program. But it still starts at the core of us beginning to achieve some type of racial harmony amongst ourselves that you would then benefit. Because at the end of the day, whatever is good for us is good for everybody. So I would say that once that process starts to work and you begin to see the unification, then you too would then be able to see that play out in the area where you are right there in Brooklyn.
Thank you, Fiji.
Thank you.
We are over. If you got time for one,
I can do one more and then I've got to go. I can only do one more and then, folks, I really have to go. This has been a rather interesting conversation.
Great. Nina Dicker, who is a writer and another spirited human being. Go ahead, Nina.
Great. Thank you so much for taking my question. I know you really have to go. I've been doing a lot of fighting with other family members, friends, people I don't know. I'm just trying to lift up Black voices and get, the right information out there. Are there any resources that you can suggest, like books or articles or certain people to look up to kind of help get the message across to people that don't necessarily understand, especially other white people?
It's interesting, and I'm just going to be frank here because you asked the question. To hear a white woman in 2020 ask a Black man, what would help get the message across to white people? I don't know exactly how I would respond to that except to say this. There are no magic books. There are no incantations or spells. You have the power yourself because of the simple fact that you sit inside of a demographic and you know your own history. You know your own practices. You know your own deep family history. You see, the change that we need doesn't come from any book that's written that tells us how to get along with you and your kind. What has to happen is, as I said before, there needs to be an internal conversation, a painful conversation, if not that, where you begin to identify, because everyone in your family is not on one accord. The same way everyone in my family is not on one accord. Like you said, you've had arguments with family members because you want to try to get the message to them and they're not getting it. So you think there's a book that you can show them. Oh, no. All you have to do is sit down and have an open discussion with some of us and accept our experiences as they are. Take those stories back to your people. Tell it to them just the way we told it to you. Try to translate the emotion that is translated in those stories to you. And then ask them, put yourself in this position. And then maybe you'll begin to get through to them. Because remember, some people really don't get it until you make it personal. I hope I've answered your question.
That was perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nina. Thank you. Everybody, thank you for joining us. Thanks for being so patient. Thanks for being thoughtful and sticking within the parameters. I'm just going to say, we turn the spotlight off so the truth can be lit up. And Grandmaster Jay, I would love to give you the final word here.
I want to say that this has been a great dialogue. I mean, I'm going to be honest. I'm so glad to see people from across the color spectrum that are willing to come to the table and ask the questions logically and in a very articulate manner so that we can get to a point of clarity. I want to emphasize again, the NFAC is a Black militia. We're not a terrorist group. We're not listed on the terrorist group list by the SPLC. We are a large Black militia. We have a very distinct mission. We don't hate anyone. We look forward to working along with everyone one day when we get our own act together with our own people. If there's anyone who thinks that there's a difference between us and any other militia that exists, then I guess the Constitution shouldn't apply to us then. We've been threatened by congressmen. We've been alluded to as thugs by the president. But the truth of the matter is we haven't broken one law. And just because our appearance is scary to you, that says more about you than it says about us. We are all citizens of the United States of America the last time I checked. And a lot of us are veterans. And a lot of us are responsible gun owners. And a lot of us want to see an end to police brutality and an end to blatant racism exacted at the hands of black Americans. And that's why we're here, and we're hoping that we can coexist along with all the others here in this space and not have to prove once and for all that it's necessary for us to be here. And I thank you for having me tonight.
Thank you for being with us. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate y'all being with us. Next week, we're on again, same time. Michaela.
Are we gone? Are we out? I'm back with the family. I can talk like I want to now. Aight. Somebody bring me my mic. Man. I've seen it all. You white people ain't gonna get enough of Bali or Jay. Alright. Somebody give me my mic. And can I take this? Thank you. Whew. Plate's getting heavy. Alright, y'all. So here's the situation. As y'all can tell, trying to set me up on an ambush with the angry Viking didn't work out too well for the white folks. So they had to come back in a more respectable zone and ask me to sit down and have that was a town hall meeting with 12 white journalists who actually, they don't know what to think of us. So they decided to get me on, and we have this round table discussion about the NFAC because now everybody everywhere got all these goddamn questions. But that's not what I want to talk about tonight. I got something else on my mind. I wanted y'all to sit in and listen, because when you listen in on stuff like that, you learn some things. Now, if y'all hold on for 1 second, I got something very important I got to share with y'all before I get y'all off of here. It's 10:14 on the East Coast. This was an extended version. I'm not doing facts over feelings, but I'm going to kind of give y'all a little bit tonight. I really wanted to teach some stuff tonight, but I need to share something with you real quick before I go. So if y'all hold on a minute, let me go grab this as bees right back. You know what I mean? Real talk. Hey. Let me grab this. Hold on a second. If I don't have this, ain't nothing gonna go right. Where is it at? Is it over here? Where is it at? Where is it at? Is it over there? Can I get the 1, 2, 3 going? Thank you. There we go. Thank you much. So let's get into this real quick, party people. I'm not gonna be with y'all long tonight. I'm not gonna be with y'all long at all. Not tonight. That interview right there took a lot out of me, and I got to share something with y'all real quick. Okay. All right. Real quick. I had a lot of people ask me this, so I'm going to knock it out real quick, and then I'm going to be gone. First of all, shalom to everybody. I'm glad y'all got a chance to sit in and listen. These are the kind of questions they are asking about what the black people are doing. We're not asking them nothing. They want to know what we're doing. But I got to follow up on something tonight. I'm not going to hold y'all long for it. That's not my style. But you need to hear this. You need to hear it from me, and because I'm gonna mess with you. I'm gonna mess with you for a few minutes, and then I'm gonna be gone. I'm not gonna keep you long for this. I'm just gonna mess with you for a few minutes, and then I'm gonna be out. Last night, I did a special called A Million to One. And in A Million to One, I talked about what it would what it would take for us if we were to establish our own army of 55,000 black people. Y'all remember that? It came out to somewhere around $10 from everybody, $10 from 20 million people. That's 200 million, 188 million for the salary. Then the rest could go to 112 million, whatever. The bottom line was, I showed you what it would take to build your army. But then last night, I also showed you what it would take to build a city of 1 million black people and all the land that we would need for the different areas. If you didn't see it, you need to go watch One in a Million to One. Now, it was put on YouTube and it got taken down twice. It's now back up again. Now you can go look at it. We got it straight. It's back up. Okay, that's 1 in a million. Now, One of the things I got to talk about, because someone asked me, and I'm going to break it down. It's really going to mess with y'all. I don't want to do this, but I'm trying to show y'all that you are holding your own salvation in your own hands. You all are holding your own liberation in your own hands. Tonight, I was going to bring you a copy of the action that we filed for the liberation, but I'm still waiting on it. Plus, I had to do this crazy-ass interview. So I did not get a chance to show you that the status in international law of national liberation movements and the use of armed forces has already been filed on your behalf, and that we're just waiting on the answer. But what I want to talk to y'all about is last night, if you remember, we said 29 by 29 miles. Remember what we said? 29 miles square is how much space we would need to build a city of 1 million people with all of the stuff they would need for it to function, from the farming to the housing to the industrial, everything. We designed the whole thing out last night, okay? 1,000,001. Now, the next thing I want to hit y'all with, and I wanted to save this because I need y'all to stay with me. Remember that $10 I told you about that you could pay for us to have an army of 55,000 of our own force? Remember, that's just $10. Remember that $10? Hold on, I got 10. Hold on, let me see if I got some bread. Hold on. So we're gonna do this right. We're gonna do it the right way. Hold on. Here go $10. All right, now watch this. I got $10. This $10 is paying for the troops. So no matter what happens anywhere, they pulling up. I'm gonna put that $10 right there. Put $10. Okay, I got $10 on the pot. Now I'm gonna mess with you. Watch this. How many of you all, you out and about with your kids, or, you know, y'all hanging out with the squad, or you coming from the club? I don't care, whatever you're doing. So you stop, let's say you go through the drive-through, and let's say 3 people in the car want something. You know, everybody, well, I want a number 1, to give me a number 3. You know, everybody, okay? One of those combo meals gonna run you about $8, $9. Easy. Now you got stuff for 3 of y'all in the car. You got 15, 20, you got 5 people in the car. It's easy, $40, $50. And what do? You eat the food, throw the cup away, and you get whatever you're going to do, and it's a wrap. You go about your business. Right? Okay. $10. Hold on, I can't see the $10. It's too bright. Put it up there. There you go. $10. Now watch this. 29 miles by 29 miles square. You got me? I needed to find out how many acres that is. 29 miles long by 29 miles wide is 18,560 acres. Let me say it again. 29 miles by 29 miles is 18,560 acres. Now, 18,560 acres, I'm like, that don't sound like a whole lot. No. So I went looking for who got the cheapest land in the United States. You know, there's a chart where you can actually go and see per acreage who has the cheapest land. Strangely enough, the state with the cheapest land per acre is the state of Wyoming. Oh yeah, the middle of nowhere. Nothing but big sky, flat land, far as you can see. $1,558 for 1 acre. 1 acre will run you $1,558. 1 acre. That is the cheapest in any state in the United States. I checked. Trust me, I went down to the bottom basement. I said, well, let's just say if I just wanted the dirt and that's it. You didn't got to have no gate, no fence. You ain't got to mark off no lines. Just $1,558 per acre. So if I wanted 18,560 acres at $1,558 per acre, it comes out to somewhere around $290,161,920. Let me say it again, $290,161,920 at $1,558 an acre is 18,560 acres, which comes out to 29 miles by 29 miles. You mean to tell me for $290 million we could build our own damn city from the ground up with everything that we ever needed, self-sufficient, own it, operate it ourselves, and all thing we got to do is spend $290 million, black people. Y'all got that money between y'all. Oh, y'all don't think y'all got that money between y'all? Oh, here it come. Y'all better stay with your boy. So what I did was I took the $290,161,920 and I divided it by the same 20 million people that would pay $10 for the military. And guess what I found out? That means that each one of y'all would only have to pay $14. 20 million people paying $14 million a piece. That'll give you your $290,161,920. Y'all still ain't caught up with me yet. Oh, let me get my money out. Over down. $4 more. Hold on a second, y'all. We gotta do it right, cause y'all ain't with the boy. I'm trying to show you what we doing. So give me 1, 2, 3, 4 of those. Put all that over there. Put this over here. Put that over here. 21, 2, 3, 4. $24. For $24, we could have our own military and own 18,560 acres of land, which is big enough for us to build a city for 1 million people. $24? $24? Y'all ain't trying to be free. Y'all comfortable in y'all captivity. Y'all playing around. Y'all don't want to be free. $24. $24. I don't care who do it. I just gave you the formula. See, I'm not sitting here begging for your money, but I'm showing you that if we was to sit back and get out our behinds and start thinking $24, and we could have our own military, and we could have the beginning. Oh, Lord have mercy. Y'all not hearing me. I had to come back and tell y'all this tonight. I had to come back and tell y'all. 20 million people paying $24 a month. No. You would only pay the $14 one time. You pay the $10 continuously because you got to finance your military every month. But I'm talking about $14 from 20 million people. You got your 290 million, and you can go out and buy your 18,560 acres. That's if you want to build your city in Wyoming. Now, if you want to go build it somewhere else, the cost is going to go up because the acreage costs more. But look how it translates down to the people. It's still only $14. I got people wanting to donate money to NFAC right now. They're talking $100 here, $1,000 there. You could take that same money and we could build a whole goddamn country. That's all I had for y'all tonight. That's all I wanted to drop on y'all. I was going to get into, I was going to let them slide, but I guess I got to teach a little bit. Sisters, I gotta talk to my sisters real quick. Sisters, I found out what the real problem is. I couldn't understand why I'm catching all this hateration. I couldn't understand why I'm being attacked by all these so-called brothers. I couldn't understand why people who was all down for the cause now all of a sudden turning into these haters. I couldn't understand why. I couldn't understand why it was so deep. I couldn't understand why certain brothers was quiet. I couldn't understand why. And I thought, well, maybe it's because they're against what we do. But I've come to learn that's really not it. I've ridden and I've delved in too far. I hate to say this. I don't know when this became an epidemic. But if it's one thing that I learned all across the course of my life, is that men do things for women. Y'all missing what I'm saying. Everything a man does
It's for you. In other words, whatever y'all think is cool, men try to do it. Trust and believe. If men knew for a fact that women wouldn't deal with them no more if they did a certain thing, it would stop overnight. It would stop overnight. So every time you see bros out here trying to impress sisters, bros out here trying to impress you with their money, bros out here they doing that for you. But watch this. Sisters have evolved so much to the point where you can't impress sisters with simple stuff no more. It took me a while to figure this out, but I got to break it down. You can't impress sisters with simple stuff no more. If you can impress them with simple stuff, then they simple. But the evolved sisters, the awake sisters, those sisters, they not falling for that no more. They don't sit back and they don't care about how much money you making, what kind of car you got, or how well you. Some brothers can speak very eloquently, but it don't take sisters long to look behind there and see it ain't nothing to that. You just knew a few words and you had me mysticized, but I went and read the books you told me to read, and I went and studied what you told me to study, and I thought what you told me to thought, and guess what? You taught me the game, and I see you don't know what you're doing. So, bros, do things to impress sisters. Now let me ask you a question. What happens when something or someone comes along and does something that all of the sisters are gravitating to, and the brothers cannot do it? I have learned that the majority of the people that are awake, that are walking on this path, that are focused on the Most High, that are down for liberation, that are in, that put their lives on the line. I'm not taking none from the brothers that are there, but it's more sisters that are doing it. And I'm seeing some weird things go on. I'm seeing brothers who are criticizing, but trying to imitate at the same time. Okay. All right, I see somebody on the ropes. Let me go and put you on the floor with this one. You're trying to do something because you think it pleases women. These women are evolved, so they need somebody to speak to their spirit. They need somebody to speak to the essence of their soul. They need somebody who knows how to remove the BS and talk to their heart. They need somebody to understand that they're not perfect, but they're trying to get to perfection. And if you would just accept their definition, we would be okay. You see, a lot of brothers, I'm not taking away from my strong brothers. I know who you are, but a lot of these brothers that I'm seeing has led me to a very dangerous place. I've never seen so many jealous brothers in my life. When did jealousy become a part of our makeup? Where did y'all learn that? When did you think that it was okay to join your brothers and turn down another brother? That don't sound like the type of man that a woman wants to have in her presence. Or is it because of the fact that all of the things that you think that are appealing to these women, because you can't do it, because you didn't think of it, because you don't walk or talk like that, because you can't reason like that, because he didn't touch you or put you on that footpath, so you're going to sit there and be jealous? That has got to be one of the weakest, and I'm talking the weakest of the weaklings that would come before in the presence of someone like that. Not just myself, but the one who sent me. Do you know how embarrassing it is for someone to think? You want to know why you got white people running around trying to challenge something that you done did? It's because they see you don't respect it yourself. I'm not going to sit here and let nobody criticize my race and buy into it. You heard what the girl asked me. What do you say to the criticism? I said, I don't hear no criticisms. It ain't no criticisms, because whatever we got going on inside our house is inside our house. And if you can't get past the emotional trauma that your mama put into you, if you can't sit there and act like a grown man because you ain't never seen a grown man, so you don't sit there acting like a big old kid, if you going to sit there and keep lying and slandering on somebody because you can't do what they do, or because you're jealous because you can't do what they do, or you're mad because you've been trying to do what they make it look so easy to do, if you're one of those people, then you are nothing more than a risk and a liability to not only me, but to everybody who's on the same course as me. Y'all didn't want me to be a president, but I'm a reincarnated king walking this earth. I don't know where my kingdom is, but I know one thing: you can take the king out of the kingdom, but you can't take the royalty out of the king. So, ladies, I just wanted to share that with you. We got another pandemic on the loose. It's called jealousy. I don't know what the vaccine for that is going to be. But what I do know is that it's very bad, and it appears to be infecting most of the men. And you have to be careful because it's contagious. Please don't let it get on you, because what's going to happen is I've already gotten 3 apologies today from people, and I'm just, I used to post those apologies, but now it's pathetic that they're in a pity party and that they want somebody to come in and help them with the piece that they can't get, and they damn sure can't get a piece of the action over here, so they hating on the whole operation. Remember what they said: the more someone is real with you, the more they expose who's fake around you. When someone comes along and tells the real truth, they expose everybody else who's telling a lie. When people try to razzle dazzle you by talking in riddles, and then somebody comes along and just gives you the answer to the conundrum, all of a sudden you see them for what they are: jokers, practical jokers, liars, charlatans, and magicians practicing the dark magics. That's not what we do here. This is facts over feelings. And I hope y'all enjoyed the interview. I'm pretty sure that they won't ask the bruh back on no time soon, because you know how we do. We set them off and we shut them down at the same time. I myself would like to let all y'all know that if anybody has any questions about what you heard tonight, please feel free to shoot me an email, and I'll be glad to try to get you a copy so you can hear that yourself. I'm pretty sure it's going to be rather interesting when they play that one back. Again, the million guns. We're looking at certain areas, 1 million guns. You want to be a part of Black history. 1 million guns in one place, not 100,000, not 200,000, not 500,000, 1 million. That means everybody, lottie-dottie, everybody, you're going to have to bring somebody to the party, and we will go down in history and send a message to the world. Matter of fact, the world probably going to be participating too, because from what I'm hearing, if we do 1 million over here, they're going to do 1 million over there, and they're going to do 1 million down there. We might have to call it the multi-million gun formation. I don't know. Y'all stay tuned for the location and the time while we're working all of this out. Again, $14, 18,560 acres. $290 million, and we can have our own city. Another $10 on top of that, 55,000 man army to protect it. Y'all holding your own salvation right in your pocket. You spend it on a Happy Meal when you go to the store. I'm Grandmaster Jay. I'll see y'all later. Interesting night. Very interesting night. Big shout out to the NFAC. Big shout out to all my brothers and sisters. And somebody told me I can't have a side piece unless I'm married. So I guess I don't have a side piece no more, Black America. I thought y'all was my side piece. See, how can it be a side piece? Because y'all so good that I was cheating with you on the side. I'm in a love affair with you, but I'm also cheating with you on the side. That's how much I'm into you. I'm Grandmaster Jay. Some of y'all call me Jay Johnson. I think that's applicable because my theme song all week is nothing but the Johnsons. And I'm going to leave y'all with that. And I'm going to catch y'all on the Morning Mental. This has been Facts Over Feelings. I'm Grandmaster Jay. Wow. Sure, I can do that. Before I go, y'all, wait a minute. They're telling me here. T-shirts. All right, let me talk about the T-shirt situation real quick. Okay, now I know a lot of y'all ordered your shirts. Some of y'all got your shirts. I done seen y'all wearing the shirts. Y'all sending me pictures of y'all with the shirts on. That's cool. I'm glad that we got there. But here's what's going on with the shirts. If you order your shirt and it tells you that it's out of stock, that meant that your order got in and it's coming to you. I don't control it. I'm not the one that's driving that right now. I'm simply allowing them to market this so you all can get your shirt, get your NFAC shirts, and look at the impression that you make on people when you walk in. I wore my shirt and walked into the place and shut the whole place down. Everybody got upset. They know what was going on. And So make sure you get your shirts because we're going to be moving to hoodies soon. The NFAC hoodies are coming. The jackets are coming. Really nice sports jackets. NFAC, if you represent, you need to go ahead and get that. To the other individuals that are asking me questions about how you get those, that link is in the bio of this profile. You can go ahead, you can get your shirts then. Also, if you're still looking for a copy of Money to Burn, which is the one that everybody has seen was banned right off of YouTube. It's available on the Vimeo platform. Again, tonight, you all who are looking for 1,000,000 to 1, it's back up on YouTube. Get your t-shirts. Make sure you go ahead and catch Money to Burn. It's out there. And also tonight, 1,000,000 to 1. Did I forget anything else? Am I good? All right. Thank y'all much. Good seeing you. Love all y'all. See y'all.